It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because our favorite national anthem is Kimi ga Yo Mama. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
And welcome back to another episode of Talk Funny, brought to you by Nagoyacomedy.com and Nagoyaradio.com. You can contact us at assportjapan@yahoo.com. We'd love to hear from you. It's a long story why we use that address, but it helps to weed out trolls and things like that. And we're here. I'm Mark Bailey. We're here with on mic Steve Howard and Mike Miller. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Before I forget, we have our topic that we wanted to talk about today. But before I forget, there's a story about a guy this is a guy that Mike definitely does not know. He doesn't know this guy. And Mike was not here when this happened.
Is this someone we'd never talked about before on the podcast?
Yeah, this is someone that you never talk about every time I bring him up.
Okay.
Yeah, you never talk about him.
And he's not a guy that's fluent in several languages.
And he wouldn't mind if we mentioned him anyway. He's a pretty easygoing guy.
No, he's very cool. Very cool.
And so one time when we were doing a recording for Nagoyaradio.com, and I told this guy, he was on our staff, and I told him to come on over, and it's room 308. So he pushes 308. I let him in. He comes up and he goes, "Is this 308?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Really?" And I showed him, we have a tag out there. It says 308. This is not like a Jim Carrey movie. What is it?
Truman Show?
Truman Show. Yeah, we just put that up this morning to fool you. He goes, "Well, why did I push 305 and then you answered at 305?" And I said, "Well, why would you push 305 when you know it's 308?" He goes, "Well, I pushed 305." And I said, "Actually, it is 305. It's just a giant scam because we're not busy enough here, recording shows. We have to play tricks on people too." So he goes, "No, is it really 308?" And I said, "No, it's not. It's actually 305." And I said, "See 305 over there? That's actually 308. I actually don't even live here, and I'm not even in Japan." So if you knew the guy, it'd be funnier. But Mike doesn't know the guy. It's too bad.
Yeah, I have no idea who
All right,
you're talking about.
So we had
radio.
So Steve, I'm gonna punch you up a little bit. Oh, did I say Steve and pot in the same sentence? I'm sorry. It's so. Maybe that's for later. Speaking of
That's
that,
for much later when
Speaking
we're not
of
in
that,
the country.
one of our topics we wanted to cover is drink recommendations. So I'm kind of a newbie when it comes to that. So did you have any recommendations, Mike?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm drinking right now, Mark. In Japan, you go to the convenience store, there's a wealth of different canned beverages you can choose from in the fridge. And the one I'm drinking right now is the Otoko Ume Sour, which is a manly umeshu, basically.
It's sour
plum, fermented plum, very manly drink. It's a bit sour. But it's good, 5% alcohol. And, it's high class.
Well, there's a band, and there's also a drink by the same name. They're both called Milky Chance, and I don't really want either one of those. Milky Chance of what? So there's actually a band called Milky Chance.
Milky Chance.
Yeah.
We were youngsters on the junkyard. Now we are still
That probably goes in the category of 10cc, it's Steely Dan, and names of bands that started out and don't sound dirty, but actually they are.
Is that a variety of Calpis?
This is a clean show. I don't know what you're talking about. Was that 2 words or 1 word, Mike?
That's 1 word.
Oh, 1 word.
I don't really want bump of chicken either, but
Yeah. So
This is a family show, Steve.
So what's your recommendation, Steve?
Well, in my case, I usually just go with rum and cokes. I think because the caffeine and the sugar sort of offsets the alcohol, and I don't end up with a hangover the next day.
Have you dealt with comics that drink or anything? Have you ever come across that? No, okay, I'm just checking.
There's a lot of teetotaler.
Yeah, it's mostly Mormon comics we work with, right?
Right. And of course, I think I had a conversation one time with Mike. Somehow along the line, we were talking about wine that's made with feet or touched by Gentiles is sometimes not considered kosher wine, and somehow it got convoluted, and we both decided that Juhais were kosher.
That's right.
But actually, I looked it up, and it's actually what I mean. But they're actually not kosher. But it's not parev, so it's not forbidden. So if it's not forbidden, you might as well drink all that you can find.
You should get in the business of exporting that to the United States, direct to New York City.
Yeah, I'll ask my rabbi. It only probably cost $3,000 a sentence when I asked him a question. So we talked about drinks. Any other kind of is there solid recreation or maybe gaseous kind of recreation or kind of, Steve, I'm looking at Steve.
Actually.
Not in Japan.
Not in Japan.
No.
Because that would be illegal.
Right.
That would be very illegal.
And it would actually not even probably cool to talk about it on the air.
Well, let me tell you
Let's
a story.
give the address out while we're doing this.
Let me
So
tell
the
you a
Black Man-
story.
Let's just say Yahoo for California.
Let me tell you a story about the dumbest thing that ever happened to someone I know in Japan. That there's a friend of mine who was here. She's now left. And anyways, she had a friend who used to imbibe a little bit. He enjoyed that stuff back home. And he sent an email to his friend and said, you know what would be nice if I had some of that stuff over here. And so a few weeks later, a package came in the mail. Actually, they don't deliver the package. I'm not sure if they delivered the package to him or how it worked out, but it said substance.
Did they deliver it to you?
Yeah,
Steve?
yeah.
We know who your friend is. I'm not kidding. Oh, it was a girl. It was a girl.
And basically, so the guy went right to jail, and he was deported from the country. And little known thing about the immigration centers is you cannot talk to people in there in another language other than Japanese, because the guards want to know what you're talking about. So my friend had to go down, and her Japanese is not stellar. She had to speak to this guy in Japanese, and he just arrived like a couple months before. He didn't speak much Japanese. So they're communicating with each other in broken Japanese in the immigration detention center
Wow.
to try and negotiate, how is he going to get out, when's he going to go home, and all this stuff. So, it was quite a sad story, but, that's the way things are in Japan. They're crazy about that stuff.
Well, it makes sense if you have an immigration center, which is going to be 100% full of immigrants, that you would have a one language policy only, one language only policy, that you would only speak Japanese, because all immigrants speak Japanese by definition.
I think you can get a translator sometimes, but I don't know. But she told me she had to translate, and her Japanese was not good. His was not.
Well, there's a story that we did when I don't know if this is one of the episodes. I don't know if you've heard of it. Just going through headlines on a newspaper, showing how you can just come up with 6 minutes of jokeoids if you try. We're going through headlines, and one of them was about in prison. They've passed a law that now you can actually have a translator. They're looking for people to translate for people that are charged with crimes, but you're not allowed to translate. You're not allowed to translate anything that the guard says. You're not allowed to communicate with the guards, and you're not allowed to talk. I guess you can talk to you're not allowed to talk to the guards, and you're not allowed to talk to the lawyer directly. So why would you need to talk to, hey, food, Gohan, hey, can I get some food over here? Other than that, you can talk about anything you want, and with anyone. But you're in prison, so you're probably not a lot of, opportunities to speak with people. So it's kind of like, the prisoners, we don't want them to get carried away, like talking to the guards and stuff, So, excuse me, I'm accidentally hanging myself. Can you help me? Excuse me. Fire, kanji, jibunda, do your own housework. No, kanji, because the housework and fire is the same.
Do you guys know the Korean American artist David Cho, I think his name is? Okay.
Yeah, I know that story. It's interesting.
Yeah, he got arrested in Japan for allegedly shoplifting, and I can't remember how long he was in the Japanese prison, I think, but that story is really interesting about how he kind of dealt with that situation.
Well, look at how strict they are in Japan. Like with the Beatles, Paul McCartney got arrested for pot over here, and then they killed John Lennon. So that's really strict.
I know. A secret mission.
I learned.
He was disguised as an insane American guy who loved.
I learned that logic by watching evening news here in Japan. It's like, well, there was a fire in Oklahoma. There was a house fire. Dakara, gaikoku abunai ne. It's really dangerous. Anywhere you go. Anywhere.
Japan is not at all dangerous.
No.
There's nothing, earthquakes.
If you go abroad,
typhoons,
if you're Japanese and you go abroad, you're just going to
safe.
burst into flames.
That's
because
right.
gaikoku is dangerous.
Though for some reason, if you're a salaryman and you jump off a 10-story building, gravity still works.
That's called work-related stress, I think. Thanks for listening, everyone. You can catch us at Nagoyacomedy.com. Check out our shows that are scheduled. We're trying to do weekly podcasts, and this is Talk Funny. You can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, but also listen to ours too. I'm going to try to put in the keywords just Joe Rogan experience and see if we get a hit from him. Hey, did you say hit and Joe Rogan in the same? I mean, because he never thinks about pot, by the way.
He never talks about pot.
Never.
Sober October. Right?
He doesn't miss it.
I mean, they should just call it the podcast.
They asked him if he was going to do Sober October, what he thought about it. And he goes, "Oh, it's really interesting. It's interesting." They're like, "You're going to do it again?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it." No, you're not. No, you're not. You're thinking, "I'm never doing that again." You can hear it in the voice. It's like, "Yeah, I might do it February instead." The shorter day, shorter month. All right, I'm Mark Bailey. Been here with Steve Howard and Mike Miller. This is Talk Funny. Contact us, AskPortJapan@yahoo.com, Nagoyacomedy.com, and Facebook, Nagoya Comedy Facebook page. Thanks for listening.